Today, we're installing an sPOD on a 3rd gen Tacoma. So before we actually install the sPOD, let's talk about why you want to have an sPOD. This is an sPOD BantamX. This is a universal kit. So if you want to wire anything more than a single 12-volt accessory, whether that's your lights, a radio, or anything like that, you'll want to have an sPOD. And why is that? A lot of people think the only reason to have an sPOD is if you have more than 6 or 8 accessories, but in fact, that's not true. sPOD gives you complete control over your accessories, whether that's dimming, strobing, switch linking, complete Bluetooth control, a dedicated switch panel that controls all your accessories. And not only that, but it actually cleans up your wiring. It makes it super easy to wire up your accessories as you go. So if you only have 1 accessory or even 2 accessories, you can build onto it as you build out your truck. And so the way it works is super simple. Right here, you have the Bantam. And this is a solid state bus bar style system that wires up all your accessories. So that means no relays, no extra wires. It's just a positive and negative going to each terminal, and it controls everything right here. And then these 2 wires hook up straight to the battery, and then it's 1 wire going straight into the cab. So that means you never have to fish more than 1 wire into the cab. Everything will be going straight to your switch panel. So whenever you want to add on accessories or anything like that, you wire it directly to the Bantam that lives under your hood. Think about it like a brain. This is the brain behind the whole entire system. And it gives you a ton of functionality and a ton of different options to give you complete control to your accessories. When you buy an sPOD BantamX universal kit, it comes with the following. So you have a touchscreen, the Bantam, the cable leads with the main fuse wiring directly to the battery, Ethernet cable that connects the touchscreen or switch panel going to the Bantam, comes with a universal mount, and everything you need for a clean wiring installation. So the tools for today's installation, you'll need the following. You'll need wire crimpers, flathead screwdriver, a Phillips, some basic pliers, basic snips, and some wire strippers, and your 10mm socket to disconnect the battery. This is actually my good friend Micah's Tacoma, and he's actually gonna be helping us out today install it. Let's get to it. First things first, we gotta pop the hood. So now we want to disconnect our battery. Anytime you're doing anything electrical on your car, you always wanna make sure you disconnect the positive terminal on your battery. So we're actually gonna mount the BantamX right here on top of the fuse box. And this is a super safe place to mount it. We've mounted them hundreds of times. We actually provide these stanchions that allows the screw and the BantamX to sit up a little bit so you could easily feed wires into the BantamX. And the easiest way to mark where you're going to be drilling into the top of the fuse box is by marking the back side of these screws and then pressing it down right here so you have a good place to mount it. So I use a little paint marker so you can mark the back side of where you need to drill. So we're just gonna hold it down, and then when we lift up, it's gonna have marks of where to drill.
Hey Jason, quick question. If we're mounting this above the fuse box, is it waterproof?
Nothing in your engine bay is waterproof. No, nothing in your engine bay is waterproof, but we have put sPODs in many different race cars that have raced in Baja, raced King of the Hammers, and had plenty of water intrusion all over the vehicle, and is held up just fine. If water, some reason, is high enough to reach your fuse box, you might have bigger issues, like your car floating away down a river.
Now you're gonna wanna make sure you have a 3/16 drill bit, and we're gonna go ahead and drill into the top of our fuse box.
You could use ROA, or you could use a provided stencil. We already got the sPOD BantamX mounted up. We've already ran our wires to the back. Now we just need to wire it to the Bantam. Micah, what are we doing?
We're gonna go ahead and strip all of our wires, and then using the provided parts bag in the sPOD box, we're gonna go ahead and heat shrink and put the plugs on the ends of the wires. I'm just using a basic wire stripper.
That's not a basic one, that's a fancy one. We have basic wire strippers right here, or we have these really fancy ones right here, which we're gonna use. It's pretty simple. You put the wire through it, and then you clamp it, and then it's gonna strip the wire for us. Just like that.
So provided in the sPOD parts bag will come with some heat shrink and some connectors for the ends of your wires. Our accessory wiring all crimped and heat shrinked up. We're gonna run through the power and ground throughout the sPOD module. We're gonna have SW1 and ground. So this is gonna stand for switch 1 and ground. So your positive for your accessory is gonna go to the first switch, Second is going to be ground, and that goes for all 8 circuits. Is we have little inlets for all your accessory wiring to slip through and come up into the positive and negative terminals to keep it all sleek, and the cover will sit on top of it like the wires aren't even there. Got our first 2 accessory wiring coming through the bottom of the sPOD. I'm going to go ahead and loosen up the power terminal for our first switch. Terminal all loosened up. You're going to have 2 little metal squares in between the screw. So we're going to go ahead and slip our first accessory in beneath those 2. Same applies for the ground. We're going to go ahead and loosen up this terminal. Get our wiring. Make sure to retighten your terminals to make sure that all your accessories work properly. The nice and simplicity of the sPOD is that you have all of your accessories already wired into the brain of the sPOD. All you have to do is connect the positive and negative battery cables of the sPOD, and that's it.
Micah got everything wired up. We got our wires and power all wired up. Now we're going to fish our Ethernet cable that connects from the Bantam to the control panel inside. So let's do that.
Now that we got our Ethernet cable all hooked up to the brain of the system, we're gonna go ahead and run this through the firewall. If you're doing this on a 3rd gen Tacoma, you're gonna wanna remove this side panel from the factory, whether that be with the trim tool remover or a flathead. Pops out very simple. But now that we have our Ethernet cable through the firewall, to keep it all nice and neat, we're just gonna run it through the back of where the mount was originally placed. It slides right here.
We have a RAM ball mount that mounts to the factory switch panel. So you're able to connect your switch panel to a RAM mount that connects to the factory switch panel. That looks pretty good.
Now that we have the Ethernet cable sticking through the factory mount, we have a hole in our bracket that we supply. This is where the Ethernet cable is going to go through and be able to connect to the touchscreen. Also, don't forget to re-plug in your factory connectors. Separately, we have another RAM mount that's going to be able to latch onto our RAM mount here and our RAM ball here, so we can mount the touchscreen to the panel and have full versatility and adjustability of our mounting switch. We do have an Ethernet plug on the back side, so we're going to go ahead and make sure to plug that in. As this plugs into the back, it goes to the brain, which will be able to control all your functionality throughout the sPOD.
So the next step, one of the most important things, you want to initialize the sPOD. And right now you can see that it's currently off. And it's because there's not enough voltage in the battery to start it. So we're gonna have to start the vehicle and wake the sPOD up.
Woo, there it is.
And that's it. Installing an sPOD is really that simple. It took us about an hour and a half and is a really easy and straightforward process. If you have any questions about installing an sPOD, drop them in the comments below and subscribe. We're gonna be putting out more tech tips, more installation videos, and overall just trying to make ownership of an sPOD that easy.